Good morning. I wake up when the sun rises around 6 and I go to bed when the sun goes down. Well, a little later, but sun goes down at 8:30. So I go up to bed 10 o'clock. So the routine is set. As I woke up, I remember the dream that was about the idea of the continuous improvement. When I worked as a consultant, also as a private equity, the operational excellence, I worked on transforming the company. And the way I did was for me to become a catalyst and identify the bottleneck in the organization, so to speak. There's a silo syndrome, each occupied in his area or her area, but the connection to the rest is not as smooth. It's natural they are to be occupied, and they've been monitored by others how they do it, but the leadership is therefore important to promote the customer-supplier relationship, also the banker-employee relationship. If we don't have a clarity in that boundary condition of how the information transfers and what the priorities, all that, then organization doesn't function well. The same is true in my whole existence. There's a me and the mini-me's, like in the organization, the top mini-company, mini-company, mini companies. They all relate to each other, the customer, supplier, banker, employee relationship. So how to find the bottleneck in such organization is actually interesting process, because I'm an outsider for the organization. I can ask lots of questions, and when you synthesize, that's the word, that I can apply in my own case, the idea pops up. So I kind of massage the organization, that's my term, to stimulate so that the flow of the information, the ideas, and the customer, supplier, banker, employee relationship, hierarchical and horizontal, can be meshed together so that it's more dynamic, as opposed to who does what and only follow the discipline or the protocol they have set. It gets rigid. So fluidity and process of synthesizing information make it easy if we can find a way to address the bottleneck so that the energy, the information, the product, the service flows better. I did that for 40 some years, wrote a book, and then transferred that idea into first 2 books about those lean and waste elimination and empowerment, organizational change. And the 3rd book is then addressed on the issue of the individual related to that. I didn't go much farther, but I explained the idea of the mini company should be applied in each individual's process of managing life. So there's a mission, customer supply orientation, KPI, key performance indicators, prioritizing and develop a plan of action, and go through PDCA process. The 3rd book was addressing that empowerment and the synthesizing process, but including the connection to our heart, results from the heart. So organization structure emulate individual structure. That's why I asked Dalai Lama, and I can give a video that I just made with my friend related to that, and I put this in description. But he agreed and found this is new interesting idea, but connect to Kegon Sutra. But in essence, it's about use the brain, not to be used by the brain, but listen to the heart and come up with a mission. So if each of us do that, organization related to customer suppliers, understanding the mission at the higher level, at the mini level, we can organize the information flow and the structure and the priorities and so forth in a more dynamic manner with the ownership of each individuals inside the organization. And each individual has the same structure within his mini company in the world of me and the mini-me. And that's the idea of the results from the heart. And the Dalai Lama gave a comment saying that, okay, that's right, use the brain, but at the same time, listen to your heart, not just disconnecting. So how you do that? Brain and the heart. And that's where listening to the heart comes in. And the way I explain in this channel of my video is that there's a state where we can find the alignment. In other words, the bottleneck can be found if those brain and heart is disconnected. That's one of the major bottleneck that we live in the mind but not connected to the heart. How the laws of the universe would prevail, that we came out of that as living being, and that's functioning, and that energy and the will of the universe may need to be connected to the brain, which is not just the egocentric, but look at the bigger world inside of you, but also outside, customer supplier interconnectiveness with each other, and the hierarchical issue. And what is to be made visible is important. What is important is to be made visible. So that's a glass wall management idea instead of brick wall. It's a silo developed within the organization. Or within each of us, we have the silo developed in each mini-me's, and if they're just occupied in certain orientation of finance or relationship or hobby or health, but not connecting to each other, there's an imbalance, and the bottleneck also developed within each individual. So as much as I did with the organization, I'm also working on my own me and the mini-me coordination and the way of synthesizing all the element, not just being occupied in the mind, but within the whole, including the subconscious and unconscious, where huge database still exist, but we may not realize, because if we just focus on the shallow part of our brain. So that's the idea of the results from the heart. But to talk about it is one, but experience it is the continuous process. As much as organizational transformation has to happen continuously because the bottlenecks shift. And we need to be attentive. So if you are in the organization, it's not as easy to find what the bottleneck is. Ideally, top management and the staff and the people work together with the idea of glass wall management. What's important is made visible. And if we work on it and develop the strategy, we can do that. But to get there requires effort to process information made more comprehensive. As much as such is the case in the organization, within each individual, we need to do that. And so plan, do, check, act is the process, continuously working on to improve, address that at the small level as well as the holistic level, and the synthesizing process in the organization as much as in each individual. The Sila, samadhi, Panna, the idea of Sila being no self, no mind, will put us into the state to bridge the gap between brain and heart. With that no mind, no self, no ego state, we see the whole picture. Mind is clear, and then you look at the whole and identify the pain point, the bottleneck. And it is such that it's the nature's way. If we provide such an organization, like someone watching the organization to transform, this watching is being done by the universe, so to speak, because you let the whole situation to be as it is. And then you meditate. You be in the samadhi, or you could be saying Namu Amida Butsu, I let go of myself for Amida's compassionate power to take place. So whether intellectually or compassionate or emotionally, we can look into the picture as much as the will, the energy level. Is it lively, living? If we sense that energy level as you are in the state of samadhi, the energy may find that it's stuck here or there within, as in the case of meditation or vipassana inside of you. And by paying attention to that, it opens up. That's experiential wisdom. You have to experience it. But instead of the organization outsider doing it, this is the case of you doing your own. The outsider is actually inside of you. That's the law of the universe, to look at what's going on. So it's a bit long story, but this morning I was thinking, I had some dream. Usually that happens like when you are meditating, but in this case, eyes closed and you are just sleeping, but the dream pops up, kind of like a idea generating, because as my whole existence is at sleep, something, life energy, find a way to express itself, becoming a dream. So I was looking at, I wake up at 6 and go to bed at 10, and from 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. I sleep. And in that process, there's nature's way of samadhi going on. Maybe not to the deep level, but in whatever way, so that whatever the strain left during the day is for the law of universe, life energy, to identify and get all the necessary information processed together so that you come up with a dream. Is a representation of idea of the pain point, and the pain point is expressed in the image of how things happen. And I could feel that this morning, because 2 days ago I had this discussion with the lawyer and also the executor or the trustee of the trust that I have been working on, and we had this discussion. And there are some residual thing that I wasn't quite clear about what happened. So a day and a half later, during the night, the dream popped up. That doesn't represent exactly, but the situation in the dream I could identify is pointing what is missing in that process. So that's a good thing. And as I wake up and thought about the dream, I could come up with the answer, which is related to what I just talked in the last 10 minutes or so. The bottleneck, how to identify, how to share. But when you work with the organization, it's not easy. So my job always has been, I only visit at certain frequency the company and identify areas for each of the mini companies and at the top level and as a whole, and give them the idea. And I don't write any report. I come back 3 months later or a year later, depends on the organization, and then ask the similar question. When I revisit, I remember, comes up in my mind what must be the case. I didn't expect what to happen because everything is impermanent, and they may do something, they may not. Some may be more empowered, interested, others may not. So I can review what's going on, the PDCA process, and me outsider being in more like a samadhi and identifying the bottleneck, I can come up with the idea. And they will do it, And that's the process of how the transformation happened, not because of me, but me as a catalyst. The same happens in individual's case. In that case, like I mentioned, samadhi, we can have a meditation or have a quiet, calm and quiet time. And self-organizing process would bring out the idea. During the day, we can do that. During the night, when we're sleeping, it is going on. I thought all the animals sleep. Why? Because there's a residual pain or the bottleneck related issues they may have during the day. So they need to rest. Not to be always busy, running this, that, but be quiet. So they are really meditating because their mind function is very minimal compared to the human mind process. But they still need it to rest. And then that would help all the circulation of the blood and the nutrition and everything else to self-organize, to balance out, be ready. So that requires sleep. And then next morning, you are re-energizing yourself to meet the challenge, to go over the law of entropy, which is this organization that can take place because of whatever the situation inside or outside, and balance of nutrition or food or energy and muscle, tiredness, all of that has to be processed, resting, and then work on it. And the next evening, you go through the same process. So we do individually the same. Organization do each organization can do the same, but all humanity, in theory, can do. And if they can practice this PDCA and glasswell management, Sila, samadhi, Panna as a whole, the whole human species and even all living beings may start to get into this continuous evolving process, although the situation can change in nature. So what's the point of this video? I was up cleaning up the branches and so forth. I left the night before, after this dream. And as I was cleaning up, sweeping, I remember Buddha and Shurihandoku in Japanese. The Shurihandoku is the disciple, and he was demented. He couldn't remember his name. But the Buddha told him to clean up, clean up, clean up. And over years, he got enlightened. That's the story. So I remember that. I was cleaning up. I remember at the Zen temple, one of the Zen temple in Kobe, I visited. I did go through some of the cleaning process. They call samu. And there was a lady who was working, maybe 70 years old. She did just a wonderful job. In my case, I took only so much to go through the whole temple, but she may have done only 1/3 of it by the time I came back, because she's picking up so well all the waste and the things that weeding and organization that need to be done. So you can sweep just briefly and leave all the mess out there. You can be more detailed. I remember Shurihandoku. I remember the lady, old lady in Kobe's temple. I think Shoryuji was the name of the temple. And I remember me now reflecting of the sweeping and throwing away the leaves and branches and feeling good about it. So that's the samadhi process, to clean up physically, also internally in our mind. And then identify the area and move on every day. Also, since we are human, we can also use the brain and clean up our mind and organize. I may do my exercise as usual. I do that Tai Chi, yoga, and the resistance exercise. I start to do this kendo swinging exercise inspired by Mr. Cho from Toyota recently. So that's the spirit energizing myself, ready to go through the challenge of life. Just a brief reflection of this morning. Hope it's something meaningful. You can pick up an idea. And if you're interested, let me know. Thank you.